Are there some people out there that might not do that? That's on them.
Yeah.
That is on them. If you want to be taken advantage of and not do your due diligence, that's what will happen all through life. Hey everybody, welcome to Comics with Bueller. As always, I'm Bueller. Today is episode 83 of the new Coffee and Comics Show. As you can see, I'm not alone. I got my good friend Bob here with me. Bob, how are you?
Chilling like a villain today, my friend. How are you doing?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, welcome back. We didn't do a show last week. I actually put out a video showing my spinner rack story, which I didn't know you didn't know that story before.
Didn't. I thought it was so cool. I mean, to have that recounted, to know that you actually went back all those years later and it was still there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like glad it wasn't a dead body, but you know,
well,
spinner rack is a good thing.
I didn't go too far into the house.
Right.
It was literally right by the crawl space. But if you haven't checked out that video, please go do so. It's a lot of fun. It's called Finding My Childhood Spinner Rack or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a great video. I actually did that video a couple of years ago, and when the audience wasn't really that large, and now I put that video out last week, and more people have seen that video just in 1 week than saw it for 2 years.
That's amazing.
So I was glad to be able to share that with a new audience, and a lot of people really enjoyed it.
For sure. I mean, if you're a comic book fan, comic book lover, it's a heartfelt story, and what a great way to revisit childhood. You know, in a totally different way.
Yeah, really different.
Yeah.
But anyway, we start off with the coffee that we're drinking today, and as always, the coffee is brought to you by Mocha Express, the official coffee shop of Comics with Bueller. And today I'm drinking a caramel frap with no whipped cream because Bob didn't want to get it. He said they were out, but really I don't think he wanted to order it.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't.
But it's really good. Caramel frap, nice. It's warm out right now. So
Yeah. There's a thing about walking out of the store in front of like all these people and there's whipped cream on a drink, and you know, it just doesn't make me look like a tough guy anymore.
Oh my god! Oh my god! And what are you drinking there, Sal?
I'm drinking a cold brew, and this time I got both vanilla and hazelnut flavor inside of it. So It's a vanilla nut cold brew.
Mixing it up.
That's
fantastic.
And it's good.
I bet it is. Tasty. Jesus. See what happens when we take a week off?
I know, huh?
Like a kid in the candy store.
I do want to point out my new shirt.
I like it.
Venomized Joker. I mean, that's like one of those things. There's no market manipulation here, pal.
Well, there's corporate copyright thing all over that.
Exactly.
Before we get started, we are going to leave a timestamp for us to jump to the topic. If you want to just go to there, you can. Or if you want to hang out with us for a few minutes and get to know us a little bit better, we appreciate that. We are going to be doing a new segment. Our friend from Pop Culture Philosophers, Rockin, Robbie, he does a great show every week, comes out Tuesday night, where he goes over all the new books that are coming out, and he reviews them, and he has a pick of the week. We are going to highlight his pick of the week going forward on the new Coffee and Comics Show. And if you haven't checked out Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers, it's a must-watch show, and if you want to hear any reviews, they're non-spoiler, and that's the big thing about his reviews. They're awesome, and they are non-spoiler reviews, and he knows what he's talking about. I'm honored to have him as part of the show.
Absolutely. His reviews are in-depth, but again, non-spoilery. I watch it religiously every Tuesday before I go buy my books, and a lot of times I'll find stuff that wasn't on my radar on my pull list that I'm so glad I watched the show because I was able to get into something new that I would not otherwise.
Yeah, he definitely covers a bunch of stuff, and it's worth your time to watch that video. I want to say thank you to all the Patreons who are supporting the channel as well. It does go a long way. Our Patreon is $3.99 a month, the price of one comic book a month. If you think we provide the value worth that one comic book a month, please feel free to join our Patreon. At the end of the video, we'll run down the names. We got some new Patreons as well over this past week, and they'll be highlighted on there also. So not bad.
That's awesome stuff.
I do have some Bueller boxes available because I just bought a bunch of books over the weekend. There was a sale going on at a comic shop, and so I should have some boxes pretty much the whole week, so that's not bad. But they will run out fast because I got some really good stuff.
Yeah.
And also, I would just want to say we are going to be doing a live show this weekend, and we're kind of narrowing down the dates. It's probably Saturday night. We'll try to figure out a time, but it'll be Bob and Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers and a few other guests, Hero and the Kid, and hopefully Dylan. And we're going to review this month's comics, our favorites, and maybe even touch on the topic, which is market manipulation. We'll see what they have. Their response to that is. Would be interesting to hear some other people's point of view.
For sure.
And really, I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and get to our first 5.
Love it.
I guess I'll go first since I already got my book up there.
Sounds good.
I don't even know what it is. This is War of the Realms number 6, the variant. And I think that's a rare variant. I don't know for sure. But it's pretty cool looking. And I didn't even have the original number 6, so I'll take it.
Awesome.
This is Marvel Comics 1000.
I've never even seen that cover before.
I know, that's awesome. Here, I told people, wait, don't spend the $10. I got that for like $1, so
right.
Not bad at all. I got the Wolverine number 1. This is the Chip Kid, is that correct?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's the die cut thing. They cut it out and stuff, and I don't know, I wanted to share that. It was also $1.
Yeah.
Bob wants a copy, so I'm going to hook him up.
Thank you. I'm jealous of that one.
The Eternals number 1, the facsimile edition. I love these facsimiles. They had a bunch of them, so I just kind of cleared them all out. So
nice.
And then I have Immortal Hulk number 25, another variant. I think that one's kind of a rare variant as well. Kind of cool. Very happy to pick that one up. So not bad at all. That's my first 5. We'll go ahead and go to yours.
Can't go wrong with that. So I had a couple of different comic hauls this week, and one of the hauls I got a bunch of 90s stuff that I'd never read before. And so I picked up a lot of reader copies, and one of the series I've never read before was Heroes for Hire. And so I got the first 15 copies of that series, and so here's number 1.
Nice.
And then we got issue number 2. I've always loved the team up between Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Back in the day, that was one of my favorite books. Here's issue number 3. This is kind of a weird team. There's more members to the Heroes for Hire that I've never seen, like the Black Knight being on there. That's kind of weird.
They got a ton of people in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then issue number 5. There you go. There's the first 5 issues of Heroes for Hire from the 90s.
Well, that's not bad. Those are some good books.
Yeah.
Have you read them yet?
I have not read them. That's why I picked them up.
You're going to read them.
I'm going to read all 15 issues.
You're going to do a review?
I am.
I doubt it. But if you do, that'd be great.
For sure, man.
Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and switch to our newest segment. This is Robbie's Pop Culture Philosophers Pick of the Week.
Oh, hey everybody. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups from Pop Culture Philosophers. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope you're enjoying your coffee. And my pick of the week is...
Dark Knight Death Metal number 1 is his pick of the week. He did a great review on it. Like I said, a great non-spoiler review. We actually both read this book, and I actually read it because of what Robbie said on his review about it. Mm-hmm. You enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yes.
I enjoyed it, but I was lost. You do need to do some research on the Death Metal series to kind of get you up to date. But as far as the book itself, I liked it. The artwork is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It's really amazing. I don't know how long the story arc, but I think there's a bunch of tie-ins that are going to go on in this.
There's a lot of tie-ins.
But you really enjoyed it, right?
I did. I mean, I read the original series, and the original event was one of the first events where I read all the crossovers that came into it, and I loved it all.
Yeah.
It was very well done. Scott Snyder has done some interim stories, in between then and now that kind of sets up this story. But even if you've read that stuff, you're still going to be a little lost because it kind of puts you in the future after like the war has already been lost, so to speak. Amazing book. It really is, and I really can't wait to see where they go with it next. I got my own theories of what's going to happen, but this is an amazing book.
Very nice. Thank you, Robbie, for the great pick. I'm sure everyone who's had a chance to check it out probably agrees with you. And like I said, going forward, we're going to feature Robbie's pick of the week on this coffee video, and honored to do so. So thank you, Robbie, and thank you everyone who's watching and who's picked up this book. He picked a winner, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump to our topic of the week.
Here we go.
And let's see if we can't piss some people off with this one. Jesus. Our topic is market manipulation. Is it going on? And there's many different forms, and as brought to my attention through the comments that people left, because that's how we do this conversation, is based on the comments that people leave. There were a ton of comments. There was a conspiracy theories and negative and positive, and it was very interesting and actually raised some stuff to my eyes that I really wasn't seeing or didn't really think about as far as publisher and comic shops and stuff like that. But it was a great topic, and you know what? You are up first.
Sure.
With the first comment, and it's from Prime Opening. I think that's Connor. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But
All
Prime
right.
Openings.
All right, so let's go. So he says, let's go full-blown conspiracy theory. Comic Tom and the guy who runs Key Collector are sitting in a room all day. We're bored. Let's stir up the market to benefit us. Has several copies of Garbage Comics #1 in their collection, and they want to raise the price to make a quick buck. Now, Tom buys up more of these books, and it shows a raised sales in Key Collector. The community reacts to this sudden change in sales, and the community oohs and ahs at this sudden change. Tom now shows the book off on his top 10 list. FOMO sets in with the community. If I don't buy this, I'll never be able to afford it. Now there's a frenzy, and a book that was in the dollar bin last week going for $1,000 in 9.8 CGC. The last kicker is now everyone is grading this once garbage book, so CGC is taking their profit from the newfound interest in Garbage Comic #1. The trifecta of the comic book community has made their dollar, and the world continues to revolve. The end. P.S. I just made this up, and it could be far-fetched, but I figure why not have some fun? Love the show, Bueller.
Okay. So that's a great conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And whether people want to believe something like that, they can. Mm-hmm. And my personal thing on this, I will just say from my personal experience, I know Tom very well. Mm-hmm. And I consider him a very good guy. And I know his ethics and his morals. And I can honestly say that I do not see him doing something like that. Yeah. Okay? That's just me. I know him personally, and I've known him for a couple of years and consider him a really good friend. I know Nick a little bit, not as good as Tom. I don't have any reason to think that he would be doing that, but I don't know him as well. Mm-hmm. So I'll just put that out there. Obviously, this is a little far-fetched. I've never heard of a dollar book going for $1,000 9.8 CGs. That would be great, because I got plenty of dollar books in my collection if they want to sell for $1,000. But I've heard this quite a bit, mm-hmm. and I've heard versions of a conspiracy theory like this about people doing something like this and using a platform to sell books or whatever it is. Not necessarily books, it could be whatever. You know, if you have a platform to sell something, I mean, that's what people do. They sell it. The more people who watch, the more opportunity you have to sell. And it's really basically up to the person themselves whether they are moral and just and want to, do the community right, whatever community that might be. This is an interesting topic to talk about, and I don't mind jumping on it. Mm-hmm. And man, I almost don't even know where to start, to be totally honest. I mean, I've been thinking about this all week.
Yeah.
And I want to represent the community the best I can on this. But I know there's people out there that think that. And I think that when you take a second, you take a step back, and you realize everything that you're saying, and then you try to think of the moving parts and how that would actually work, I don't think it's logistical.
Yeah, right.
And I think a lot of it does. I think it's easy to believe a conspiracy theory. Oh, that's what it is, and it justifies why I don't have this in my collection or whatever it is.
Right.
And I think it's the easy way out. But if you take a step back and look at it logically, it's like, does that logically make sense, what he's saying? And people are doing that. And like you said, it's a conspiracy theory.
It is. Logically,
it doesn't hit all the bases for me.
Yeah.
Some people are going to disagree, and I totally get it. But on something like that, it would be such a difficult thing to pull off.
Yeah.
And is it worth your time? Is it worth your reputation? Is it worth your future? Because all that would have to come into play. And the bottom line is, no, it's not.
No,
it's not.
No, absolutely.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, let's just start with what I know about conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories come about because there are a bunch of different facts that are out there, right? It's a fact that Comic Tom has one of the most watched YouTube comic book channels out there. It's a fact that he has his own mystery mail call, of which he's endorsed by comic companies. They give him the exclusive comic books to put inside of his boxes. It's a fact that he's tied with Nick and the Comic Book Collector app. It's a fact that you can make money by truly, if you wanted to, manipulate the market the way people are talking about. And so conspiracy theories are all tied up, and here's these facts, and it's not far-fetched to go from here to here. Yeah. But let's just face it, most of the things that you're saying have to do with business practices of large corporations who have made money off of people in the most vile of ways.
Yeah.
Tom is not a large corporation. And Tom, again, if you really look at what he's doing, he's not trying to make money off of single comic books and driving the price up on them. He has his show, and he has his mystery mail call box. And if you really sit down and think about it, if you're going to jeopardize what you're doing, to make a quick buck off of the community, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that, conspiracy theories like this hold water, but there are things in place that are facts that if you put them together, it kind of sounds right.
Yeah.
And because people are used to being manipulated, they're going to assume that person is manipulating me too. And I think that's the case when most people start coming up with theories like this.
Yeah. I got the next one here. This is from Fetal Ape. He says, yes, there is a form of manipulation, perhaps a strong word, but whether it is, everyone has a chance to make money or gain value. If you do your homework, you will always have the advantage. If you sleep or are lazy, then you will be crying in the threads about any number of excuses. Hunt. So the reason I wanted to read that is because I hear a lot of people like, people are getting taken advantage of, okay, and type thing. And I don't think that, and I've said this before, we're not a bunch of idiots. And a lot of people like to just think, they did that because they're an idiot or something like that, or they just did that. I have more faith in the comic book community to do their research, like what he just said, and to find out on their own what they need to do, okay? Are there some people out there that might not do that? That's on them.
Yeah.
That is on them. If you want to be taken advantage of and not do your due diligence, that's what will happen all through life. Not just comic books.
Right.
Okay? Comic books is the least of your problems if that's the type of person you are. Okay? If you don't do your diligence and educate yourself and have all the information available, then you're going to get taken advantage of no matter what it is.
Right.
You paid too much for that car. You didn't need to buy that insurance. You don't need that type of thing.
Yeah.
That happens a lot with elderly people. My grandmother was paying like $180 for her internet service. Mm-hmm. She barely checked her email. But they rolled the wagon up on her and took advantage of every single thing that they could. Okay?
Right.
I went and looked at that bill. I'm like, what the hell is this? Mm-hmm. And I got it down to $30. But she'd been paying that amount for years and years just because she didn't know any better. Okay? I think that the comic book community does know better. I think that we have the tools in our hands to make sure that we make educated decisions. And if you're the one getting taken advantage of, it's more on you than them because you have the opportunity to step up and make sure that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And I'll agree with you 100%, but I think the way a lot of this comes down is that when people jump into collecting, just like anything else, most people learn from experience. They're not going to learn from me saying, hey, don't do this or do this. Because 9 times out of 10, that's in one ear and out the other. But you get bit on making a bad investment. It hurts, and you remember that. And guess what? You're not going to do it again.
Yeah.
I think what happens in most cases is that people get bit, and they don't want to take responsibility for their own choice.
Yeah.
And they start blaming it on anything else but themselves.
That doesn't happen at all.
Right?
Nobody blames other people.
But you're so right. I mean, bottom line is, do your research, take responsibility for your choices, and you're saying that the comic book community does take responsibility, and I think that some of that comes from making mistakes and learning from your mistakes.
Because this is a hobby. This is not a necessity.
No.
This is a hobby that we get into because we enjoy it. We don't have to do this. My grandmother, she needed the internet to communicate with people. Okay, mm-hmm. It's that guy on the other end of that phone realized she needed that. This is something that she needs, and he rolled the dice, and look what happened.
Yeah.
This is a hobby. This is something that we enjoy doing.
Yeah.
A few people, make it a living and stuff, and that's great, but for the most part, they chose to make it a living.
Right.
And because they enjoy it. They enjoy the books and everything like that. But if you're going to jump into a hobby and collect and enjoy it, you owe it to yourself to do your own research and make your own mind and buy the stuff that you enjoy to have in your collection.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree.
I have the next one as well. This is from Colin Wright. Is that right? Colin Wright? I think so.
Yeah.
I think certain retailers hold certain books. I got back into the hobby 3 months ago, and I cannot find Captain Marvel #8 except on eBay. But I can find tons of those House of X or Power of X. I think it comes down to print runs versus expected popularity. Too many #1, high print count, so only 36,000 Cap #8 printed. If 5 to 10 big retailers hold 500 copies, they can let the copies rise and sell slowly. But I know I have 4 copies, so collectors too hoard. Oh, we do? Is it the 90s all over again? Okay, so this is a different type of market manipulation that comic shops kind of do, and I know they do this. I know gentlemen that have done this. Perfect example, the one that pops in my mind: Batman Damned. And my LCS at the time, they're no longer my LCS, but at the time, he got a bunch of those books in, and guess what? Put a couple on the shelf, and there were stacks of them in the back. And there was a show the next weekend, and that show, they were $50 a pop. And he would only put out one at a time, so to make sure it looked like he had one. And then once it sold, he waited and then stuck out another one.
Yeah.
Okay? I know that goes on. All right? Comic shops have been doing that for years. I can't really fault them for it.
Nope.
I look at it like, as long as you can take care of your box customers who ordered that book, you have every right to sell it for whatever the market is going for. As long as your box customers are good, and from my knowledge, I think he took care of his box customers, and he had a bunch of extra, and then he sold it for what it was selling for in the market. He has just as much as right to sell it for that price as the guy who bought it for $4 and sold it for that price.
Absolutely.
Not to mention he has to pay rent and employees and everything, and his livelihood is based on comic books.
Right.
But that is something that comic shops do, and that is a form of manipulating the market.
Right. Now, on a situation like that, yes, that happens a lot. But I wouldn't say that a comic book shop is in the business of hoarding a bunch of comics in the back arbitrarily just because they think it's going to spike this way or that way.
I think they do.
In some cases.
Yeah.
But in most cases, I hear comic shops all the time. I just let 10 of those books go last week, and now they're spiking. Wish I would have known.
Yeah.
Right? And so, for the most part, they do want to get rid of their inventory. Yes, there are cases where they will hold on to them. But in the case where, a book sells out and then it spikes, they're not holding that book in the back so that you can't buy it. They're going to try to sell it to you for what the market price is going right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't see comic shops hoarding that much. It's striking while the iron's hot. That's what I think it is.
All right. All right, you're up next.
So the next one's from D. Metz, and he says, I will say this as a person who uses the Key Collector app and appreciate it as a gauge for value of issues. Here's where I think it gets a little sketchy. When they put out the hot issues or spec deck issues for the week, everyone gets the alert and immediately goes to eBay to buy or search the issues. The price average and issues sold immediately goes up. Then they go on YouTube the following week or so and then report on these issues after they have been presented on the app. They claim to scout the web and find these issues that have now increased in sales and value. They directly influence this by the app. How many auctions on eBay would you have to search to find the most sold issues? This just sets it up for them to report, and all these collectors fall right into the trap they set. Sorry this is lengthy, but I felt it was a good point for discussion. Thanks for all your efforts. Interesting.
So, as far as like the Key Collector having the value of the book, I could care less what that is. I never even look at that. It's never factored into my, buying decision what this app says it's selling for or whatnot. I've never looked at that. I've always said before, that's the price I won't pay for it. I look at that and I say, $10, yeah, I'll pay $1. And that's just the way I look at it. So as far as price goes, that's it. The one thing about this comment, and we talked about this a little bit, it's kind of weird because I understand what he's saying, but the app itself, is meant to inform you about books that are going to go up in price or have some information about them, okay? And then reports on those books, and it has special parts in the app, like top 20 or whatnot, what books are hot and the reason why. That is the essential being of the app.
Absolutely.
What you're saying here is you don't like what the app is supposed to do.
Right.
You know, it's like, what do you want it to do?
Right.
If that's the problem that you have with an app, what do you want it to do? Do you want it to not tell you what's going up in price, or do you want it to not tell you the news on the book? Because if you put that out there, people are, like I said, oh, this app sucks.
Right.
You know,
what do I need it for?
Did you hear about that from Key Collector? No. You know, you don't want to hear that. You know,
right.
So it's kind of a weird situation that you're put in. I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is to point out keys. Okay. If there's a spike in the market or if there's something going on, it lets you know in many different forms, whether it's on the app or a little section in the app, or if it's made a video about, you know, it's not just Tom makes the video because they're affiliated together, but other people make videos about it.
Absolutely.
You know, even before, you know, Tom makes a video. So it's just information that's out there. And it's a little surprising how much heat that they kind of get sometimes when the other option, people would be pissed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
This thing doesn't work.
It didn't tell me this, and I missed it.
Right.
You know, how many times I'll do a video, I'll do my top 10, I'll say, let me know what I missed, and I'll all the time, how come you didn't put this on your list?
Right.
This is spiking, this one's selling for $40, how come it wasn't on your list? Mm-hmm. Well, for one, that's my list, and it doesn't really have anything to do with price.
Right.
But I get that all the time. It's like, I didn't inform them, they were upset. If Key Collector didn't inform you, people will just be pissed off all the time.
Exactly right. Well, let's just face it. I mean, this resource is not something that we've ever had. And I mean, this is a new thing. And if you didn't have Key Collector app, you'd have to do all that research yourself.
Yeah,
and most people, right? Most people wouldn't do it.
Yeah, what's Overstreet?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then even that they're pissed off about because it's outdated, right? And so people are going to complain about the tools that are in front of them in one way, form, or another, which is to me ludicrous.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that it's a great resource to be able to look at what's possible.
Yeah.
And if it does spike, hey, great, it did what it was supposed to do. I don't get it. I really don't.
People somebody asked me, do you think that Key Collector inflates prices or makes prices go up? Absolutely. Absolutely it does.
It's good for the industry.
Because it provides information.
Right.
And the more information someone has, more people are going to be out to go out and buy it, But they do the research themselves, and then they make the choice to buy it.
Right.
Okay? And then that makes the market go up or down, whatever it is. So does it inflate prices? Yeah, sure. So does the Overstreet price guide.
Right.
You go to the Overstreet, oh, what is this selling for? Oh, you find out information about it. If you hear something on, the news, oh, they're making a new movie about such and such. Does that inflate the prices? Yeah. Did you hear about that from Key Collector? No. Well, that sucks.
Right. Hey, I'm actually grateful for Key Collector because there was a bunch of books in my collection that were worth nothing before that all of a sudden have spiked because of the fact they pointed out that it was a key or that it was a spec.
Yeah,
thank you.
We're going to piss off a lot of people.
I know. I'm kind of used to it by now. I piss everybody off.
All right. I'm up next. This one is from, first off, thank you, D-Mets. I appreciate your comment, my friend.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking the time and sharing that with us.
We've read many of his comments.
And giving us some great talking points, really, and that's what this is all about. The next one is from Tony Miles. Says, I don't know if I understand this question well enough to really answer, but I do believe that the market is somewhat influenced by variants and store exclusive covers that lead to overspending to get a particular book. I also think that books different channels recommend can increase sales to such a smaller extent, but certainly doesn't manipulate the market. I do think all the industry hype around Punchline is a pretty transparent attempt to manipulate the market and inflate books that are overproduced and probably won't have a long-term staying power. So he hit a couple things there. Mm-hmm. And one thing, he said, like, different channels recommend a book, okay? And what is the scope of that? Let's just be realistic. What is the actual scope of Bob saying he likes this, or Bueller saying he likes that, or whoever, okay, really enjoying that book? I don't know, my top 10 video, 4,000 people watch it. You know, in the spectrum of how many comics are sold every week, it's very small.
Yeah.
It's not hardly anything. Comic Tom, his video is top 10, 15,000 views. That's a very small, portion of the market worldwide for comics. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so the scope of it, I think, gets blown out of proportion. And sometimes maybe we get more credit than we deserve.
Absolutely.
To be totally honest.
Yeah.
I think that's the case quite a bit because, for one, everyone who collects comics isn't in it for the profit or the money. Majority of people who collect comics, at least I believe, are in it because for the joy of comic books.
Because they're passionate about the hobby.
Yeah, they're passionate about it. They want to read the new Daredevil. They want to, be involved and stuff like that. So I think that's the majority of it. But I do think the scope gets blown out of proportion from some of us who are considered, if you want to use the word influencer, I don't consider myself that, but I've been told that. But it's a very small portion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even for I'll give you an example, like a book like Folklords, I talked about Folklords, or we did, mm-hmm. and maybe 10%, the audience might have listened to us talk about that video. And so that's like 400 people out of the 40,000 that bought that book. It's very small.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Tony did mention the punchline.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of DC hyping up a book, or a publisher, let's not just say DC, but a publisher hyping up this book from start to finish. Not just one book, multiple books.
Multiple books.
92. Gotta get it, and people got mad at me because I said they're a dime a dozen, they're not going to be worth anything.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I think you're wrong on that. I go, well, maybe I am. But everyone I've talked to who is like a comic shop owner or some insider, like, yeah, we can still order it right now.
Stop bursting people's bubbles, Bueller.
Yeah. There's tons. I just paid $1 for it.
Right.
Even the 1 in 25 variant, same thing.
Yeah.
For one, it's not that book. I think it was 92.
92.
It's not even. It's just she's on the cover.
Right.
When's the last time you paid a ton of money for the first time on a cover?
Yeah.
Not very much.
No.
But
look. How much
Doom
money?
and Gloom Bob.
I know. How much money does DC make if a character comes out and all of a sudden that character becomes hot after they put the book out? Do they make any money off everybody rushing? Nothing. So can you blame them for hyping up this brand new Batman character?
They're supposed to.
They have to.
That's exactly what they're supposed to do.
Exactly. And so you can't blame them for trying to hype the character. Yes, is the market manipulated? Of course it is. But guess what? A lot of people are going out and buying it because they want that first issue. Now, if they take it upon themselves and believe it's going to be like the thing that's going to be expensive and it's going to, put my kid through college, you're fooling yourself. That's what this guy is trying to tell you.
We argued about that punchline character.
We did.
A couple times. I still don't know where you stand. If I change your mind or not, or whatever.
It was about first appearance. It had nothing to do with price. Whatever. But anyway.
All right. You're up next.
All right, this one comes from a good friend of the show, Eric Strubble. He says, market manipulation is a hard one for me to answer. Yes, I do think that there are those that manipulate the market. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. Is UF4 being pushed right now because the vast number of collectors have that book in droves? Possibly. But it is a great book with socially relevant characters. So, bad? Not really. I don't think the book is being pushed as much for financial gain as it is because it's a good book. Did Bob manipulate when he pushed Daredevil on his recent coffee video? Well, technically, yes. I promptly went out and bought a handful of the new Daredevil run. Way to go, dude.
Yeah, there you go, man. Keeping them going.
But was it to line his pockets as the negative view implies? Not at all. He's a passionate collector that really thinks we should read Daredevil, and that's the truth. So my takeaway is this. As collectors, we all manipulate the market in one way or another. If our FOMO makes us all jump on Walmart variants because Comic Tom or Bueller mentions them, then we have something fun to discuss in our groups and with other collectors. And that's the hobby part of this beast that we all enjoy. And if nothing else, we bought a comic and kept our hobby afloat. P.S. Love what you do if you select this long-winded comment, we all know Bob will be reading it. So hi, Bob. Thank you, Eric. And yes, you are so right.
For sure.
I love it.
Yeah, I'll read that one.
But I mean, really, what he's talking about is that we all manipulate. I think that's kind of a harsh word for it, but we all influence.
That's
Right,
better,
the market in one way or the other, whether it comes from our passion and the way we talk about certain things, or whether it's the actual retailers or the actual publishers. It's all being influenced in one way or another. Some you can call it manipulation, but like in the case of us, we're just passionate hobbyists. When I review like the Daredevil books, I'm really, really hyped about that book. No, it doesn't put any money in my pocket, but I love talking about Daredevil, and so I think he's right on that.
You're absolutely right. There is an aspect of, when you want to sell something, okay? I want to sell this book right here. If I say, hey, Joe, you should buy this book, and Joe goes, well, tell me about this book. It's not that great.
Right.
You're not going to say that, okay? The artwork's not very good. It's probably not a good investment. You're trying to sell the book.
Right.
Your whole point in selling that book is try to hype it up.
Sure.
And give it some more attention. The reason why the person might want to buy it. Same thing if you're selling your car. You're going to clean your car up. You're going to make sure it looks nice. You're going to, do all the things. Make sure it doesn't smell like funk and all that good stuff. You want it to look presentable, and you want to sell for as much as you can get out of it.
Absolutely.
Everyone does that. It's called buying low and selling high.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe it's a good deal for them, and they get a good deal, and that's great. But you don't want to do the garage sale method to where you're selling your stuff for pennies on the dollar. It's like you can go to a garage sale and buy a toaster for $1.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, great, I'm glad I got rid of it. But they paid $20 at one point for that toaster.
That's right.
Okay. And that's not how people look at comics for the most part. People who collect comics, when they buy them, they put them in bags and boards to protect them. They get them graded. They do all this stuff. Double bags, double boards. Let's get it clean. Let's get it pressed. They're trying to make it look as good as it possibly can.
Absolutely.
So that if they want to sell it eventually, they're going to get the most they can. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. And if you want to consider that manipulation, I don't think it is.
I don't think so either.
I don't think that part of it is.
No, I mean, look, anything that you're gonna sell, you're going to have to spin it in such a light to make it presentable to the other person. Why do I want to buy that?
Yeah.
And that's what sales is all about. And whether that's in a garage sale or whether it's coming from a retailer, the goal is to make money.
Yeah.
Right. And hopefully the person buying it values what they're paying for. And if they do, then it's a great sale.
Yeah.
What maybe, $1 for you becomes value. I could pay $100 for that same thing and still find the same value in it. Here we go. I'm just using it as a point. Don't get too far ahead of yourself.
I got it.
But I think no matter what you do, that is part of the business. That's part of capitalism. And I think you're not going to get away from that.
Exactly. This next one is from John Claude. It says, yes, there has always been comic manipulation. First, the lack of information about accurate print runs and sold copies are the most manipulative. Publishers and the distributors keep collectors ignorant to hide the rarity of a book. A second manipulation is also the ratio variant. Publishers create a 1 in 10, 1 in 25, 1 in 100 variant to force artificial sales of trade copies. I prefer the cover A and B strategy so the collector can choose freely which ones to purchase. Finally, good old rumor manipulation, the market. We are told to buy a book that just got optioned from people who already own the book. Afterwards, the price mysteriously spikes. Great topic. Keep up the hobby. He hit on a few things.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to talk about is the publisher. I mean, the false sales data. I mean, it's like the 1 in 100 variants. Okay, and the comic shop orders 100 copies of the book. They buy them, and that's sold copies of the book, and that's the sales information you get.
Right.
Does that mean that 100 customers got that book? No, they're still sitting in the comic shop, maybe 10. So the sales and data is always inflated when it comes to comic books. And a lot of times that can make people want to buy that book. I'll give you an example. Did you see the the new Avengers movie? Well, no, everyone's seeing it, man. You got to go see it. Well, with everybody saw it, I better go see it.
Right.
You know? And it's like, oh, this book sold thousands and thousands of copies. Well, I better go get it if so many people bought it. When the real thing is, it didn't sell thousands and thousands.
Right.
There was some kind of manipulation with the variants or some other stuff. You know, we've talked about that many times with the buy this other title to qualify for this other title, and all. There's tons of crap involved in that stuff.
Right. Right.
So there's a ton of manipulation as far as the actual sales data of books, and just books that are just sitting there. And this is first from the distributor and the publisher itself. This isn't secondary market. And we never really get a true sense of the actual real sales data for comic books.
No, and I think that's been the true case for a long time. You know, I remember kind of having an understanding of this way back when the McFarlane Spider-Man #1 came out. They came out with these variant copies that had to do with how many comic books were sold, right? I mean, they were ratio copies. So if a comic shop sold 1,000 copies, they got one of these, right? And it just when the books came out, those stores received one of those already polybagged, already set up, and it's like if the books would have came out afterwards because it was based upon actual sales, then I could say, okay, they created this many books for those shops because they bought this many. But no, they were already ready to go the day that they came out with the polybag and everything already produced. So they already mass-produced thousands of them in those polybags.
And the rest of them are buried in the next to the ET Atari cartridges out in
Exactly,
Mexico or
somewhere, right? But all of a sudden, somewhere at some point in time, the market gets flooded with them. Who makes money off of that?
Yeah.
And so I was really looking at how the market was being manipulated all the way back then.
Yeah.
And I believe that happens a lot more than we give it credit.
Yeah,
for.
I think it does. You got the next one there by Lewis.
So Louis Burzy, he says, Key Collector has made me buy comics I wouldn't have otherwise, especially in dollar bins. Also, I think Comic Tom and his lists influence a lot of people because if a book comes up on his list, I can usually sell it quickly. Take Peach Momoko, for example. No one knew who she was until Tom started hyping her up.
So what's the first thing that strikes you on that sentence?
Made me buy.
Yeah. Lewis, I love you, man. But the fact that you said that Key Collector has made you buy books.
Yeah.
I got a kick out of that. And maybe it has. But really, the correct thing is it provided me information.
Sure.
And then I chose to buy that book based on that information.
Right. Got to take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah. And Lewis is a great guy. Mm-hmm. And but I understand that point of view, and it's I got to get it now. I saw it, I got to get it. Just take a deep breath, step on back, and wait, and then you get variants for $1 that were going for $20. And this is what I get accused of. I get accused of lowering the value of comics.
Right.
This is something I get accused of all the time. It's like, you watch that Bueller guy, he lowers the value of a comics. It's like the opposite of everyone else. I'm the guy saying you're paying too much money, and then you on the other end of the stick you hear, they're inflating these books beyond what they're worth.
Right.
I get exactly the opposite. It's like, what do you mean you only paid $1? Don't say that.
Right. Because people want to hold value.
Yeah, but like you said, in there, the Key Collector app made him buy a book. Mm-hmm. Come on, Lewis. I love you, man, but come on, dude. Yeah. You bought it.
Yeah, you did. You bought it. You made that choice. And I'll confess, when I first came back into comics, I'm like looking at what type of collector do I want to be. I start seeing these videos, Comic Tom's being one of them, top 10, and there were some books on there that were spiking hot. And I'm like, maybe I should get that book.
Yeah.
Right? And I did that. Turned out to be a bust. Yeah. Right? Do I blame Tom for that?
Yeah.
No, I made the choice to buy that. But it taught me something about the market. It taught me something about my own choices. And I was grateful for that afterwards.
Yeah.
I got burned by it, right? But that was my choice.
Yeah.
He didn't make me do anything. And I think that is the type of approach you need to take with this stuff, is understanding what you're being influenced of and be responsible with your choices.
Yeah.
Russ says it all the time, right? He says, collect what you love, right? You can't go wrong with that. and anything else you're being manipulated by, understand that rising or falling, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And be careful.
The most part, comics don't tend, when they are hot, okay, or spiking, whatever it is, they don't tend to hold that value.
No.
A few months later, they're just not. It's just like, let's just take 100 books out of a year that spiked during the year, okay? A year later, how many of those 100 books are still spiking or still at that same price point?
Right.
Maybe 10 at the most. More likely just like 4 or 5, to be totally honest. And that's just the nature of how it is. You know, what was the one, Wolverine's Daughter, you know?
Right.
A lot of, Wolverine's Daughter. That lasted like a fart in the wind, man. I mean, it was there and it was gone like a day later.
Yeah.
And there was all this hype and gotta get it. And like a couple days later, I can't remember what book it was.
Can't remember her name.
You know, and they've never done anything since.
Yeah.
And the comic books are filled with stuff like that.
Yep.
Filled with stuff like that. And that's why I always tell people, just relax, take a step back.
Right.
And you know what? It'll probably pop up.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, it does pop up. But I really, even if I see stuff like that, I still don't buy it. You know, I'm like, that book has come back down from $40 at a high, and now it's $10. And I see it, I still don't want to spend $10 on it.
Right.
Know? But just, take a little bit of time,
Yeah.
do a little bit of research, own it, own your own decisions and stuff. And I have, like I said, I have tons of confidence in the comic community that we do that, and we are educated, we are bright people. We can make sure that we're not, taken advantage of if that's the case. And there's no reason for that to happen to us because we got this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He does say one other thing I wanted to hit on.
Sure.
He's given Tom the credit for the Peach Momoko bandwagon. And I don't know if that's the case. I know that Comic Tom loves Peach Momoko. That's obvious. But let's just face it. She was striking hot before Tom said anything about it.
I don't know. I'm not like a huge fan.
I'm not either.
I've seen her artwork and stuff, and I said this before. It's nice, and I get it. I'd probably prefer it more on my wall as a painting,
Sure,
as opposed to the cover of my comic book.
Right.
And that's just my own taste. But for the most part, I don't see it as a cover, But as a wall, a big blown up, type thing. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
The one she did with the Venom and the Yoda one.
Yoda's the only one I've ever gotten.
Yeah, not as for a cover, but for a picture on my wall in my room or whatever. Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you got the last one.
Yeah. Last one comes from Comic Crazy. How you doing, brother? He says, manipulation has always existed and seems to be more so through third-party sources affiliating themselves into the market. If a popular app says it's hot, then most will flock. At the same token, a reviewer can manipulate people's decisions not to buy a particular comic based on a review. It's equal on both sides.
It is.
It is.
It's. I can sit there and say I did not like this book. I had a book this last week I didn't like. It was Wind, and it was actually on my top 10 list because I wanted people to try it out. Even though I didn't like it, I still want people to read it and give their own thoughts. But a lot of people will just see that and say, well, he didn't like it that much, I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah.
That's not my intent, but that it is the case that happens.
Right.
So it does go both ways. Now, if I say, I really like this book, this one right there, then, I better go buy it. Bueller said he liked it, or Bob said he liked it, or Robbie said he liked it. Mm-hmm. Robbie influences me all the time.
All the time.
I see that, like, I got to get that book.
Yeah.
Or I got to pass on that book. So it does go both ways. Whether it's manipulated by like what you like or the price of a book or the speculation of the book, it's up to you to make up your own mind.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the reasons why I stopped doing my rating system, because I don't want to be the cause of somebody saying this is a bad book or a good book. What I'm presenting is my personal preferences.
Yeah.
It's up to you to make a choice on that, and I don't want to take somebody's hard work and say this is bad. No, what I'd rather say is that didn't grab me.
Yeah.
It didn't work for me. We talked about on my show yesterday the artist for the new Wonder Woman book. He does great work on his panels, but both of us are in agreement that his artwork on the actual character herself, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
And we're just being truthful about that. But you're right, it does. It works on both sides, and there it is.
Yeah, I think I sometimes I want to be careful about that because I don't want to affect a creator
Right.
in a negative way. And I've had a lot of publishers that I work with. They're very forthcoming. They're like, hey, if you don't like our book, let us know. And don't feel obligated to give us a positive review.
Right.
And I tell them, I say, here's the thing. I go, if I don't like a book or if it's not my cup of tea, I'm not going to waste my time and review it.
Right.
Because there's so many other great stuff out there. I'd like to spend my time talking about something positive than something negative.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal choice. I would hate to sit there and say, this book sucks or this book isn't very good, and then for some reason that affects that creator's source of income or something like that. I'd feel really bad about it.
Especially when they put a lot of hard work into it.
Exactly. So that's just my own personal preference. I mean, other people go the opposite direction. Yeah. And there's other YouTube channels or whatever media that their whole thing is, tearing people down. And they make a living doing that. And that's not something that interests me one bit.
Me either.
So anyway, that's the topic. I don't know. It's an interesting topic. I don't know how good of a job we covered it, to be totally honest, because I think it's really deep.
I think it is too.
And I think that there's many different forms. And I'd like to hear some more what you guys have to say about it. What are some of the things we missed? I think we put our opinions on the table. Obviously, one thing that kept on coming back on the comments were the Key Collector app itself and just people's thoughts on that. A lot of people use that app. I think personally it does what it's supposed to do.
I do too.
And I'm not affiliated with Key Collector. I've said that in the past. Mm-hmm. I know Nick. Him and I have had disagreements in the past. We regular conversations, no big deal. But I think his app does exactly what it's supposed to do. Yeah. And a lot of people use it.
Saves me a lot of work.
Yeah, but as you can see from a lot of comments, a lot of people are like, what's up with that? Yeah. But I bet you they still use it.
I bet so. I think it's a great topic.
Yeah, anyway. All right, everybody. So there you go. Like I said, leave our comments down below. Let us know what you thought about this. Do we need to revisit this at a later date with some more information and maybe some other opinions that might be interesting to sit down and talk about? But let's go ahead and jump to our final five and wrap things up. Let me pull this one down. Mm-hmm. And I'll go first.
Okay.
I have the Spider-Woman #1, the other Chip Kid die cut, whatever it is. That was also $1. I got this Power of X #1 variant edition.
Nice.
Very cool. This X-Men #1 variant edition. Look at that. That's
I like
nice.
that. Yeah.
And here is Detective Comics #38, the facsimile. I love these facsimile ones. I always buy them.
Yep.
And because they're cheaper than the original ones. And then I got Kids #1. You actually let me borrow
comic.
this book one time, and they still had copies for $1. So
nice.
I got it, and now it's in my collection. So there's my final five. Mm-hmm. Go ahead there, Bob.
This is more of the haul that I got this last week, and I was able to pick up some older Flash books. Really happy about that. This one is actually my oldest Flash book in my collection now. This is number 157. And let me put my glasses on here real quick.
Yep.
And then this one is number 234. I love the Rogues Gallery on there. This is a special double issue, 52 big pages. It's issue number 213. And then I got issue number 226 here. And then I saved my favorite one for last. It's The Flash in Handcuffs. And it's issue number 164, and it's actually a really nice copy.
Not
so
bad
there's
at
my
all.
final five.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
Show them some Flash. You're just going to take them down. You don't leave them up there.
Although I always forget, man. You already did your final five. There you are, folks.
There are 30 episodes in. 30 episodes. What is the deal?
It's just me, man.
Happy Father's Day, by the way.
Back at you, man.
Yeah, this is Sunday. We're filming this, so happy Father's Day.
For sure. Happy Father's Day to all you dads out there.
To my dad, too, happy Father's Day. He might be watching. I don't know. He's probably fishing.
Probably fishing. There you go. That's what he should be doing.
Yeah, he loves fishing. So. Anyway, that's your show, guys. That's our topic, our first five, final five, all that good stuff. I want to say thank you once again to all the Patreons who are helping support the channel. And I also want to give the spotlight to Bob a little bit because you are so close to 1,000. I'm getting tired of saying this. What is the deal, man? Just get there.
I don't know. I lost a couple of subscribers, and I think because some of the things I put out, I don't know, but it happened. I'm not worried about it. I thank you guys for all the support that you've given me. I think coming into today's show, I'm like 12 subscribers away from 1,000. And so I'm really close, and I'm really looking forward to finally getting over the hump.
There you go.
But thank you guys so much for supporting the show. I put a couple things out this weekend. I put a special coffee video out highlighting the owners of the Refuge Coffee Shop where I film my coffee and comic show. And but check out Everything Comics. I really appreciate all your support, and I thank you for all the support that you give me.
All right, Everything Comics, like a dozen away from. I'm not saying this again next week.
Not a problem.
If you don't get 1,000, that's it, dude. We're skipping the whole spotlight and Everything Comics thing. So anyway, help Bob out. He needs 12 more subscribers for that 1,000 mark. I'm tired of it. Come on. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know what to do. We'll see you next week. Bye.